Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about something raw, something few people dare to admit out loud. Why are so many older men in their 60s, men who've lived, loved, sacrificed and built entire lives, quietly walking away from relationships? Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in a kind of silent resignation that most people don't even notice until it's too late. Before we dive deep into this, take a second, hit that subscribe button and like the video, because what I'm about to share isn't just opinion, it's truth most people are too afraid to face. You see, men over 60 have seen it all. They've endured the storms, divorce papers, ungrateful children, broken trust, and the quiet realization that no matter how much they gave, they were always expected to give more. Society sold them the dream of forever love, but what they got was an emotional battlefield where their efforts were invisible. At 60, a man doesn't crave drama, he craves peace. He doesn't chase validation anymore, he chases silence, the kind that heals. Many of these men tried to hold on to relationships that drained them, emotionally, financially, spiritually, and after decades of trying to please, to fix, to endure, they finally stop. This withdrawal isn't bitterness, it's self-preservation. They've realized that companionship means nothing without respect, that intimacy without emotional safety is just another transaction. When you've spent years being taken for granted, the quiet of your own home starts to feel like freedom. Most people misunderstand this shift. They call it loneliness, but what these men feel isn't loneliness, it's liberation. They've stopped performing. They've stopped trying to meet expectations designed to please everyone but themselves. They don't need a partner who reminds them of what they lack. They want someone who understands what they've survived. And when they can't find that, they'd rather walk alone than bleed quietly beside someone who doesn't see them. The tragedy: society won't talk about this. It keeps pretending these men are bitter or broken. But the truth is far deeper. They're just tired of being invisible in a world that only values them when they're useful. When a man reaches 60, something profound happens inside him. Something few women or even younger men truly understand. It's not just age, it's awakening. He's not the same person he was in his 30s or 40s. The man who once chased approval now chases authenticity. The one who worked himself to exhaustion just to be a good provider begins to see how much of his life was spent earning love instead of experiencing it. And when that realization hits, it shakes him to his core. Decades of being strong, dependable, reliable, yet rarely appreciated. He starts asking, did anyone ever really see me? Did anyone ever love me for me, or just for what I could do for them? Those questions cut deep, and once they rise to the surface, there's no turning back. See, most men at this stage have already played the roles society wrote for them: husband, father, provider, protector. They sacrificed their own peace to hold families together. They tolerated disrespect because they were told that real men don't walk away. But now they're realizing maybe walking away isn't weakness, maybe it's wisdom. These men aren't rejecting love, they're rejecting imbalance. They've been in relationships where affection came with conditions, where their emotions were dismissed, where communication turned into competition. And after years of trying to be heard, they simply stop speaking. That's silence. That's not indifference. It's self-defense. It's the moment a man realizes that emotional neglect hurts just as much as physical abandonment. And many women never see it happening. Because he doesn't explode, he doesn't accuse, he just detaches. And what's heartbreaking is this: when older men finally pull away, it's rarely out of anger. It's out of exhaustion. They're tired of being told their feelings don't matter, that their pain isn't valid, that they should just man up and take it. So they retreat to a space where peace exists, even if that space is solitude. That's why you see men in their 60s choosing quiet apartments, fishing trips, books, and long walks over arguments and emotional chaos. Not because they've given up on love, but because they've given up on begging for it. Their withdrawal is not the end of their story. It's the beginning of self-respect. There's something deeply misunderstood about the man who chooses solitude after 60. Society paints him as cold, bitter, detached, but that's not who he is. He's reflective. He's seen how love can turn into obligation, how marriage can shift from partnership to performance. And in his quiet moments, he's not running from love. He's grieving what love could have been. You have to understand, by 60, most men have lived through emotional wars they never talk about. Divorce, betrayal, emotional neglect, financial strain, the pressure of being the rock even when they were breaking inside. And through it all, they've learned that love without peace is just another form of stress. They've watched their friends die early, not from illness, but from years of bottled emotion, suppressed anger, and silent disappointment. So now, they guard their peace like it's sacred, because it is. A man who's been through that kind of emotional fire doesn't crave the same things anymore. He doesn't need to prove he's desirable. He doesn't chase validation through attention. What he wants now is emotional safety, someone who listens more than she argues, someone who brings calm instead of conflict. But here's the painful truth. In today's dating world, that's hard to find. Modern relationships often come with demands that drain rather than nourish. Many women, especially younger ones, mistake maturity for control, quiet confidence for lack of passion. They don't see the quiet man as powerful. They see him as boring. And so he steps back even further, realizing he's been misunderstood by every generation he tried to love. In that retreat, though, something incredible happens. He begins to rediscover himself. The man beneath all those expectations. He starts traveling alone, rediscovering old hobbies, enjoying the sunrise without having to explain why. He finds beauty in simplicity again, a coffee cup, a song, a peaceful morning without tension. And that's where the transformation begins. The older man walking away isn't lost. He's reborn. He's choosing a life that doesn't demand constant performance. A life where peace is more valuable than companionship and freedom more satisfying than validation. He's not saying no to love. He's saying yes to himself, something he's never truly done before. When an older man finally starts saying yes to himself, the world doesn't always applaud. It questions him. People whisper, "Why did he leave? Why doesn't he date again? Why is he always alone?" But what they don't see is the quiet confidence behind that solitude. They don't see the man who's finally free from the emotional noise that once consumed him. See, in his earlier years, he was told that a real man never quits. Not on his marriage, not on his partner, not on his responsibilities. So he stayed. He endured long after the love had faded because he was conditioned to equate endurance with virtue. But endurance without joy is just slow erosion. And eventually, he realized, staying for the sake of appearances was destroying the man he was meant to become. That's when walking away became an act of courage, not defeat. And once a man tastes peace, after a lifetime of turmoil, he won't trade it back for chaos, not even for love. Because at this stage of life, love that costs peace isn't worth the price. He knows the emotional toll of giving too much and receiving too little. He's been the listener, the fixer, the one who apologized first, even when he wasn't wrong. Now, he chooses stillness over struggle. But here's what's profound. When he stops chasing, he begins to attract genuine people, deeper conversations, friendships that don't demand performance, women who value presence over potential. Suddenly, his energy changes, not because he's avoiding relationships, but because he's finally aligned with authenticity. And that scares people, because a man who doesn't need validation can't be manipulated. You can't guilt him with loneliness. You can't bait him with attention. He's already found what most people spend a lifetime searching for: inner contentment. There's beauty in that kind of independence. It's not rebellion, it's realization. It's the peace that comes when a man finally understands that love isn't something you chase. It's something that flows naturally when both people are whole. So when he walks away after 60, he's not abandoning love, he's redefining it. He's setting a standard that says, "I will no longer give my soul to someone who doesn't value its weight." That's not sadness, that's sovereignty. There's a quiet revolution happening among older men, a psychological shift that most people overlook. These men aren't just leaving relationships, they're rewriting what fulfillment means. They're realizing that happiness was never supposed to depend on another person. It was supposed to grow from self-understanding, from emotional peace, from alignment with one's own truth. When you've reached 60, you've already lived through decades of expectations. You've seen what happens when love becomes conditional, when respect fades, when communication turns into competition. You've watched people stay together out of fear, not devotion. And one day you wake up and realize you don't owe anyone your peace just because they shared your past. That realization is terrifying for some, liberating for others. A man who once spent his best years trying to keep everyone else comfortable now chooses to make himself comfortable. And that's not selfishness, it's recovery. He spent decades suppressing emotions, silencing needs, and carrying burdens quietly because men don't complain. Now he's learning that being emotionally honest isn't weakness, it's freedom. He's learned that being alone doesn't mean being unloved. It means being unburdened. And you'll notice, men like this stop chasing drama. They stop arguing. They stop needing to be right. They start cherishing the little things, cooking their own meals, caring for their health, reading, reflecting, even meditating. They invest time in self-growth rather than trying to repair relationships that refuse to evolve. It's not that they've lost faith in love, it's that they've redefined it. They now understand that real love has to meet them where they are, in truth, in maturity, in mutual peace. Anything less isn't worth staying for. And yes, some people call them loners, but that's just projection, because a man who has mastered solitude becomes magnetic. He radiates calm confidence. He doesn't need to chase, he attracts effortlessly. There's power in a man who's walked through decades of heartbreak, obligation, and noise, and finally says, no more. He's not running away from the world. He's finally standing in it as himself. And maybe that's the most dangerous kind of man, the one who no longer seeks permission to live in peace. So here's the truth. When an older man walks away from relationships after 60, he's not rejecting women. He's rejecting everything that made him feel small. The unspoken expectations, the emotional double standards, the constant pressure to be strong, even when he was breaking inside. He's rejecting a version of himself that lived for others and forgot to live for himself. And you can feel it, that quiet strength that comes from a man who has finally made peace with solitude. He's not angry, he's not bitter, he's just done explaining himself to a world that never tried to understand him. He spent decades doing everything right, and for once, he's realizing he doesn't need to do anything at all to deserve rest, respect, or happiness. That's the beauty of reaching this age. Perspective. He no longer confuses being needed with being valued. He doesn't chase love that feels heavy. He doesn't mistake passion for peace. He understands now that love isn't supposed to drain him. It's supposed to ground him. And maybe that's the quiet secret most people will never admit, that the happiest older men are the ones who stop trying to fix what was never broken in them. They're not lonely, they're selective. They've built in a world so peaceful that few can enter, not because they've closed off, but because they've finally learned what their soul is worth. When he sits on that porch at sunset, coffee in hand, no one sees the years of internal battles he's won. No one hears the moments he said, enough, but that peace on his face. That's victory. That's a man who chose himself after a lifetime of choosing everyone else. And maybe that's what real maturity looks like. Not chasing, not proving, not performing, just being. So if you're a man listening right now, understand this. Peace is not a prize, it's your birthright. And if you've spent your life giving, sacrificing, forgiving, maybe it's finally time to give that same love back to yourself. Thank you for being here. If this message resonated, subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because every man deserves to know, walking away doesn't mean you're lost. Sometimes it means you've finally come home.